Going to get started with our introductions. Go over our ground rules really quick. Let me get my own agenda. So we listen to each other, treat others respectfully, share our opinions politely, and respect the process. We also have a little ask today because some of our steering committee members are away. So if anybody has the capacity to stay a few minutes after the meeting to help us put away the tables and chairs, we always appreciate that. So thanks so much. Sarah, is she? And I just wanted to start off with introductions. If you've been here before, we usually do that to get a feel for our microphones. We've got a set of microphones, so bear with us. And just, if there's a little delay, take a beat, try again. As you can see, sometimes it mostly is working. Yeah, great. Okay. Without further ado, I'm just going to pass the mic off and we can get rolling.
Ralphie boy, I'm at Laurentide, the new development up there. And Shazam, I'm not very happy with my counselor, Evan Litwin. But that's besides the point. I may not, like him or like his policies, but God darn it, we're going to just do the best we can.
Cool. Thanks, Ralphie boy. We're going to save our announcements for our open forum section, which is going to be right after our introductions. All right.
My name's Mark, Ward 4.
Hi.
Hi, Kieran Turner, Ward 4, she, her pronouns.
Hi, Mary Healy, Ward 7, she, her pronouns.
Hi there, I'm Gordon Dragoon, Ward 4, and he, him.
I'm Ray, Ward 7.
Susan Ogden, Ward 4.
Wendy Rice, Ward 4, she, her.
4. Ali Gang.
Time. That money card is at the sound system.
No. That's this one. Here, I'll pass this one back over.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello. My goodness. Okay. Jennifer Ely, Ward 7, I think. Oh, and what do I respond to? Pronouns later.
Brian Williams, Ward 7.
Karen Belowski Branch, Ward 4, she, they pronouns. Amy Belowski Branch, she, her, Ward 4.
Hi, I'm Annie Lawson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Ward 4. I'm on the steering committee, and so is Amy. Okay.
Kyle Donovan, Ward 4.
Brittany Larrabee, Ward 4.
Hi, Lizzie Sheehan, Ward 7, Laurentide. Linda Looney, Ward 4, she, her.
Sarah Carpenter, Ward 4, she, her, and I'm the city councilor.
Carmen George, she, her, Ward 7.
Barbara Benton, she, her, Ward 4.
Gary DeCarlos, Ward 4, he, him.
Dan Dudek, Ward 4.
Gail Anderson, Ward 4, she, her.
Mark Leopold, Ward 4.
Ward 7, Susanna, she. Is that working? Sarah Campbell, Ward 7.
Sammy McCray, Ward 7, she, her.
Sal Millichamp, she, or they, and I'm in Ward 7.
Bernie Carver, he, him, Ward 7.
Robert Bristow Johnson, Ward 7, and Chittenden 18.
Gianna, Ward 7.
Ward
Not your mouth that way. Now speak.
7.
What's your name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Courtney, Ward 4, and this is my daughter Annika. Her.
Steve Norman, Ward 4. No, Ward 7. Right? Ward 4.
Lynn Eisenbright, Ward 4.
Alex Cabala, Ward 7.
Caitlin Dembski, also Ward 7.
And Mark Barlow, North District City Councilor.
Awesome. Thank you. And we've got Stephen and Fareed serving food in the back. I want to invite everybody to get some food now that food is here. Thank you so much, Fareed from People's Kitchen. So yeah, we're going to take just 5 minutes, grab some food, and then we'll jump into our open forum. So if anyone has announcements, upcoming events, and the next segment will be your chance to share that. You guys got some extra bites of food? Feeling good? We're going to jump into our open forum. So yeah, a chance to make some announcements. I know we got one over here and try to keep it a little brief since we're doing our timing based on how things are going.
All right, I can talk fast. I'm Linda. I'm here from the North End Food Pantry. Couple things. This Sunday coming up is our next monthly clothing drive. In real need of men's pants and older children's clothing. Those are the two items that we seem to go the quickest. So if you know somebody that could clean out their closet and get ready for spring, they can bring the stuff to us, but we need spring clothing. So we're done with winter jackets and that kind of thing, but spring jackets, sweatshirts and all those things are okay. At the same time we do the clothing drive, we also do a food drive. So if you are interested in donating any food to the pantry, that would be great. Also, there is a flyer up on the front table. We are doing some fundraising with a $25 donation. You're going to get a North End Food Pantry canvas tote, and New Duds is helping us sponsor that, so they're really nice totes. So if you think about you need something else to carry your groceries in, think of us and make a donation. Also just real quick, I wanted to just give you an idea. We asked some of our guests that come to the pantry what it meant to them, and I just want real quick read a couple of them. This is a gentleman. He says, the access to food is so important for me because I have a very limited income. At the pantry, I feel part of a community, and it feels good to be around people. When I'm here, people talk, and I have many acquaintances. Because English is not my first language, I also learn from the other people here about important local and state news. This one is, I've been coming to the pantry for about 7 years. I really like getting a choice in the groceries I get because there's so many options here. The people are so friendly. My great-grandson thinks that it is awesome here, and he thinks it is helpful for a lot of people. Some of my neighbors can't make it here or have mobility issues getting inside, so I'm able to bring food home to them as well. So think about us when these are your neighbors. We'd love to have volunteers. You can sign up on the website for volunteers, make a donation on the website, or bring us some non-perishable foods on the last Sunday of the month from 11 to 1. Thanks.
Thank you. 1 and 2.
Good evening. I'll follow on the spring theme with you. I represent an organization called Vermont Vector. One of our signature projects is collecting gently used baby gear. that we redistribute to 94 social service and mutual aid organizations across the state. We do rolling collections, but we also have a swap event on April 19th at the Elks Club. So if you need baby gear, or if you have baby gear that you can get rid of, purge your closets and make your house so tidy and sparkling and wonderful. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan. I have 3 ice out signs in the trunk of my car, which I'm happy to give to anyone who wants one.
Thank you both. Any other announcements?
For announcements?
Yeah.
The GOP is hosting a election integrity panel discussion. It's going to be at Lawrence Middle School on Friday, is it? The 27th at 6 p.m. And everybody's invited to go to it. The Sarah Copel-Hannes is going to be there, Secretary of State, Lon Larson, John Hogan, who is Montpelier City Clerk, Robert Rupert, and Dan, what's that? Dan Feliciano is going to be the moderator. Everybody's welcome to go.
Thank you so much. One online. All right, perfect. I was going to say we probably have time for one more, so I'll invite Rory online to unmute and make your announcement.
I was just sharing that if anyone knows anyone looking for immigration legal aid, Vermont Asylum Assistance Project is doing free consulting for cases. That's all.
Okay. Free consulting cases. Sorry, can you repeat it?
For like court consulting and legal support around immigration, Vermont Asylum Assistance Project is providing that to community members.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Rory. All right. Thanks, everybody. And obviously Front Porch Forum is another great space for making these announcements. So without further ado, we'll continue on our agenda. And I'm going to invite Annie Lawson to talk to us about Proposition 0. And Annie did allow us to truncate our time a little bit just because of our timing tonight. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I can pass. Oh, that's the wrong side. I may pass this around later. This is the visual aid I might refer to when we're talking. I don't like having to make PowerPoints, and I figure we spend enough time looking at screens in our day-to-day life. So I'm just going to talk and provide information, and I have it in print here as needed. So I am one of a group of volunteers working to change how ballot questions or ballot measures reach our voting ballot. This campaign has been called Proposition 0 because the idea is the first step is to make more avenues by which we can get a question onto the ballot. And once that's achieved, we could see all kinds of creative ideas from our residents here. Proposition 1, 2, 3, 4, who knows what types of things people will organize and get onto the ballot. So a little bit of background about Burlington as a municipality. This initiative is an attempt to bring more direct democracy to Burlington. We have representative democracy here, but we are the only municipality in the whole state of Vermont that does not have one of some municipalities have more than one, but we don't have any mechanism by which a regular resident who does not hold public office can get a question onto the ballot. This varies from municipality to municipality. Some people do it in like the old school town meeting where everyone crams into the gymnasium and someone raises their hand and says, I think we should vote on this. And if there's enough hands, there's a vote. Most places, towns have grown and most places have different mechanisms to bring those onto the ballot. And that's what we're talking about here. So a little bit of background about how policy is made in Burlington. We have a city charter, which is kind of like our constitution. That's like the grand set of, for lack of a better word, rules that we've all agreed to operate under. And then the actual rules that get passed, the ordinances and policies, those are sort of what Congress might pass on a national level. So think about our city charter as the Constitution, and think about propositions and ballot questions as something like an act going to Congress. Would anyone like me to explain that again or in a different way? Okay, so right now our city charter says that we can change the city charter if we have a petition drive and gather enough signatures to represent 5% of the voting population. 5% is about 2,000 people in Burlington. So the city charter says you can change the charter if you have a petition drive. And then if it passes on voting day, the charter is changed. So what Proposition 0 is trying to do is change the charter so that going forward, people could do a similar petition drive to change a law or create an ordinance or a policy. So this is where I think it can be a little confusing, because people are going around saying, would you sign this petition to make it so that you can sign a petition to make a law, which is too many layers. So I hope that lays a bit of groundwork. So the ways that we're trying to bring direct democracy to Burlington are three. We would like to see that there could be an initiative, which is people organize together and say, we really want to have a binding vote on this question, and we think it should be on our ballot. We think our voices matter. So that's where roughly 2,000 people would need to sign an in-person signature. Electronic ones online do not work. That's one thing we're trying to change. Another one is to have the option to call a referendum by the same policy, which would be, again, roughly 2,000 voters. If you could get that many people organized within, I think it's like 90 days of an ordinance passing, it could be reconsidered or repealed. And then the third one is if people wanted to have an advisory question on the ballot, if they said, we really think we need to take the temperature on how our city feels about this question, we want to see it on the ballot. So those are the three things that we would like to put into place. Let me pull up my high-tech thing here. You can see that, let's go by example. The first one is Bennington. Bennington has the ability to bring an advisory question onto the ballot. But as far as an initiative for a new policy or ordinance or a referendum, they do not allow that. However, if 30% of voters sign on, they can recall an elected official from office. We're not trying to do that in Burlington, but that's an example of another form that places have all over the state. Brattleboro has all of these. They have the ability to bring an advisory question to the ballot, an initiative, AKA a new policy or ordinance, a referendum, and a recall. So some towns have all of them, like Brattleboro do. Some have only a few, but you can see Burlington here, we don't have any. And so that's what this group of people is trying to change. We're not an organization. It's a group of people who have lots of different interests and things that they're passionate about, who have all realized that one thing that's missing from our local government is a way to get everyday voices to the table where decisions are made. Okay, so now I want to talk about how hard it is to get 2,000 signatures. I will tell you, it is like a beast of a lift. It's very hard to do. And as we're trying to bring this to Burlington, we set that number to make it high enough that it's not frivolous. You really need to have a lot of strength behind a campaign for it to work, but also it's not so high, like 25%. I don't know what that would be, like 5,000 signatures. People wouldn't be able to reach that. And so to give you an example of how long that takes, I was at the polls on town meeting day with my clipboard, and there's lots of foot traffic on town meeting day. People are coming and going. They're all Burlington voters. You don't have to waste time saying, hi, are you a Burlington voter? Are you sure? What's your address? Oh, no, you're South Burlington. Sorry, I can't talk to you. You know, everybody there is someone who could sign a petition. And there's so much traffic. And so I was there for 1 hour and I got 10 signatures. And that's like a wildly successful hour. If I'm wandering around at the farmer's market, maybe in an hour, I'd get 5 or 6. And this is good. We don't want this to be something that makes it too easy where all kinds of fringe ideas can get onto the ballot. We want this to be something where there's got to be a real strong community support for something, and still a way for everyday residents to make their voices heard without being one of 13 elected officials who make our rules here. Let's see. I can talk about other things, but I think I want to open it up to questions. Does anybody have a burning question or something that they feel like should come to this discussion? I'll come to you first and I'll pass it over to you.
Could you please tell us how the system works now and how the city council feels about this?
Okay. I'll do my best to answer that question. I don't know how a ballot question gets, I don't know like the different steps to go through committees, and Sarah, maybe you can add to this. But the only way currently that a question gets onto the ballot is if city council votes to get it there. So there's 12 people, the mayor can veto it. Then if that happens, city council has to override it. And I can't speak for all of city council, but the folks who the information I have is I don't think they're in favor of it. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but that's my general impression. And that makes me wary, because if folks who are in positions of power get to make decisions that affect all of us are wary of expanding that to include more voices, it just makes me wary. But I am not speaking for everybody, and that's my impression based on information I have from previous conversations. And Sarah, do you want to say anything about the way I answered that question, or how a question reaches the ballot through committee in ways that I'm not as well versed on?
It's actually a long process. Usually, we start with a resolution. So a resolution lays out an issue, if you would, a problem, a concern, and asks that the council do something about it. So it would phrase it. The city council, i.e. the 12 of us, would vote for or against the resolution. More often than not, even if you don't necessarily strongly agree with the resolution, you will ask that it be sent to a committee. And we've got 11 committees, very active, and some special committees. So a particular committee, I serve on this, for example, would take up the issue and spend a lot of meetings and a lot of public hearings on the specifics of it. Ordinance covers a lot of zoning regulations, not necessarily. Councilor Litwin introduced something about gas stations needing to disclose whether they put holes on debit cards. And so it can go from big to little. And once we've had adequate legal support and over the committee level and taken testimony, then we create, quote, an ordinance. And then it comes back to the 12 of us to agree or not agree. More often than not, we're still tweaking language up to the last minute of it. And there is a lot of that stuff. So I think that's important to remember in the context of a proposition that might want to recall ordinances. I mean, would you want to recall all the zoning versus a particular thing you don't like? So there's a lot of nuance that I don't yet understand the impact of, and that would be something you would need to think about.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I'm going to cut you off there because I want to have more time for questions. Yeah, and I did want to give you a chance to talk about how the current body works.
One question though. The city of Burlington does require or allow petitions for charter changes that relate to governance. Citizen things like the police control board is one example of that was not initiated by the council, that was initiated by the citizens.
Right, and that's charter level. You're talking about a change to the charter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. And so that is part of our charter. But the problem is that's where it stops. There's no way to have direct grassroots impact on the lower level ordinances and policies. So
I got on the charter, and that's by citizens.
Yes. Thank you for, yep, that's right. Thank you. Okay, and thanks, let me cut you off. I just want to hear more questions and be able to answer those too.
Thank you very much. I'm interested in the fiscal impact of Prop 0.
That's a really good question. My understanding is it would never trigger a new ballot. It's only a way to get more questions printed onto an existing ballot. Does that make sense? So it's not going to cause more elections. It's not going to cause more ballots to be printed. It's just a question of, do we get to vote on 3 ballot questions this election or 4? And then as far as the fiscal impact, it would depend on what is the thing that's being brought to a citywide vote. And I'm glad you asked that because it makes me remember, I need to say something that I've been talking about this so much, to me it's a given, but I want to spell it out. Just because something reaches the threshold of 2,000 signatures doesn't mean it's going into law. It just means we get a chance to weigh in on it. We get a chance to make our voices heard and have a vote on it. So if it's a question that has a fiscal impact, then it would go to the residents of the city to decide, are they for that or are they against it?
So do you get the question tested with, say, the city attorney or somebody? Because if the language on the petition we sign is different than what the actual language will be on the ballot because it has to be made legal.
That's right.
That's a problem.
Yes, that's a great
Because we might
question.
be signing something that we don't.
Exactly. Yes, that's a very, 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 very good question. And it's a technicality, but it really matters. And thanks for asking that. And Sarah, when you addressed the consultation with the city lawyers, I meant to come back to that. So thank you. We do that on this end too. So I don't know if any of you recall, this actually came to a citywide vote 3 years ago. We're doing it again because it did not pass. It was very close and we didn't do a really good job campaigning. And there were other really controversial, like big flashy questions on the ballot that kind of sucked up all the oxygen. So this time we're starting to campaign really early. When we did it 3 years ago, it failed 47 to 52. It was very close. So there's a lot of support for this. And when we did that, we went through the process of drafting the language, bringing it to a city attorney, getting their feedback, tweaking it, bringing it back, getting it approved, printing it. And that's a really accurate point that if the content of the language on the piece of paper you sign in your polling place parking lot is different than what's on the ballot, your signature is thrown out, like it would not reach the point of the ballot. So thank you for that question. Okay, I have a few more minutes. Are there other questions or anything? I'll just expand on a few things if not. We have, did you want me to, I don't think oh yeah.
City attorney can change it, make sure that it's legal and it follows the law. They just can't change like the substance of it.
Thank you. Okay, so the content of it has to be the same, but thank you. And that's another point is that for your signature to count as people are collecting signatures, the physical petition language has to be physically there with you so that you can read through it with your own eyes so that you're making an informed choice. So the reason we're bringing this back up, I'll be right there. The reason we're bringing this back up 3 years later is a number of reasons make it feel to us as though direct grassroots democracy is more important now than it ever has been. There are things happening on the national level that are very hard for us to affect. We can call our representatives and it's still a representative move on our part where we're asking someone to vote in a certain way, but ultimately we don't have a seat at the table. This is a way to really put the power back in the hands of the people. So this is called Proposition Zero because what do you feel passionate about? Is there something that you really think the city should vote on? Do you think that has enough support? Do you know enough people who'd be willing to campaign and petition for like hundreds and hundreds of hours with you to get whatever that might be? Maybe that becomes Proposition 1, get that to a vote. And so I'm excited about this also because we have so much wonderful skill and talent and like creative thinking in this city. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all those ideas could like inform wonderful policy changes and we could bring those to an actual vote that would then change the way our city works and change the way we spend our dollars, make the power back in the hands of the people. And then, did you have a question?
You have the petition here.
Thank you for that. And thanks for saying into the microphone so that it gets heard online. We do have a petition here and I should have led with that. It's, I think Farita's going to bring it up to me now. Yes. And so if you'd like to sign this, feel free to see me. And you'll see signatures of some neighbors in other places and also the full petition language is here. And did you have one more question, sir? I wasn't sure.
Just a quick follow-up. You mentioned in some of the materials here, California and what has gone on in California. And I hope that you put some significant time into studying both the good things and the bad things that have happened in California, because it's not all great.
Thank you for that, because that tends to be one of the biggest hesitancies people have. I am really glad you brought it up. I think that the response I have to that is that we actually already have this here in Vermont. We have it in every municipality except for Burlington. And we have not seen catastrophic events. I also really, maybe this is, I don't know if any of you would agree that this is like rose-colored lenses, but I really do have a lot of faith in the people of Burlington. I think people really care about their neighbors, have a lot of really shared values about supporting each other, doing what's right. I think that that alone is going to be a big barrier to get a fringe idea onto the ballot. I think they would not have enough support to get there. And then if it did, I have a lot of trust that people would shoot it down. We had an advisory question, I think it was 2012, people can correct me, but there was, I believe, an advisory question about should Citizens United be repealed? And like the vast majority of, I mean, that's the campaign finance law that said people can dump unlimited amounts of money. And it made, I think it makes things correct. Say that again. Yeah, thank you for me. But the question was, are corporations people? And the city of Burlington overwhelmingly said, no, corporations are not people. And it was just a resolution. It wasn't anything binding, but it gave the opportunity for residents to make their voices heard and their values known. And so based on that, I really have a lot of faith in the people of Burlington to not fall for stuff that is fringe. I think people here make good informed choices. They do their research when they vote. And I'm excited to see what kinds of ideas bring to the ballot, what kinds of ideas people bring. I think I will leave it there. I think we're out of time. So
I was gonna say, I know we also have our district counselor, Mark Barlow here, and if we had just 2 more minutes, you wanted to add on?
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you, Mark Parr, North District City Councilor, and I serve on the ordinance committee with Sarah Carpenter. And thank you for the presentation tonight. And I look forward to the discussion in the community. I will say, having served on the ordinance committee for a year, that there's a lot of technical work that goes into ordinances, that even when they come to us and they're referred to us at the city council, we'll take it into ordinance. We'll start talking to staff. We'll end up talking to legal. We end up having people come to our ordinance committee meeting and give us testimony there. And we may spend, as Sarah said, we've spent 3 or 4 meetings, detailed, in-depth meetings going through the nuances of ordinances. And these are things that everyday citizens could appreciate, but they may not get that level of detail and nuance. Everything is sort of connected. All the ordinances are connected, or many of them are. And so I have some reservations about anything that's binding, that it doesn't go through that sort of process. The other thing I will say is that there is opportunity for grassroots and public input on these things. And many ordinances, so we have it in the committees, we have it in the council, and many ordinances require public hearings before they actually become enacted and become part of our ordinance. So I would just say that I would caution us against just putting some language on a ballot and have it be binding within the city code of ordinances.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think it also helps answer much more accurately the question somebody had about how city council feels about it. I'm so thankful to the people on city council. Like, I can't imagine how many hours you all put in a week. It's got to be so much work, and I'm thankful to people who do it. I also think that everyday residents are able to make good decisions and give good thought to the questions before them, do their research. It's up to the people bringing a question to the ballot to campaign, and it's up to the opponents to bring up their reasons for hesitation, and great public dialogue should bring out that nuance. And then the part you mentioned about how there is input in committee, definitely. And that's still, I would call that representative democracy. It's people saying, please vote this way. This is what I think you should do with your vote. It's different than direct democracy, where people get to cast their own vote, speak for themselves, and be part of a collective decision-making at the most pure grassroots level. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. And is there a website or place that people can find more information?
Thank you, Sarah. The website is propositionzero.org. And you'll hear a lot more about this. Our hope is to eventually get this onto the ballot in November. So we're starting really early. We want to make sure there's lots of conversation about this and people get all the opportunity to consider the questions, or rather the question. And there's more detailed information on the website. Thanks for that question.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, everybody. Our next agenda point is just a quick announcement from our steering committee, me being one of those people, and Amy being one of those people, and Annie is also on our steering committee. We also have 3 members who are not here tonight. And this announcement is just to say that next month we will be voting our steering committee in. Those of us who want to remain on the committee, I plan to go back up for nomination. And anybody else who's interested in joining our steering committee, which the steering committee is a group of volunteers who host this meeting. So our main responsibilities are being here, of course, and hosting this meeting. And then we also meet one other time a month to build the agenda, communicate with our presenters, connect with the folks who make us delicious meals so that we can serve that to you all for free every month. Yeah, so those are the main responsibilities. It's also a great place to connect with the people who are wanting to engage in this space of democracy and neighborhood connection. So if it's something that you're interested in, feel free to, if we could all raise our hands one more time, those of us who are on the steering committee, feel free to talk to us, ask us questions. And usually I know Martha is volunteering as our greeter. She's not on our steering committee, but we super appreciate that. And that's another way that you can be involved if you don't want to commit to being on the steering committee, but you have a little extra capacity to help us set up the room or be a greeter or serve food. So it's super fun. It's awesome. And if you've been to our meetings before, you know Stephen usually, and he made dessert tonight. We usually get extra treats at our organizing meeting. So if that's encouraging. And yeah, I just wanted to put that on your minds. If you yourself want to join, or if you know somebody that you want to nominate, hopefully you can make it to our April meeting, which is going to be the 22nd of April. And we'll just scoot on down the agenda. I don't know if Sam Donnelly is here tonight. I didn't hear them at an announcement. Okay. So we're going to just bump right on down to Philip Peterson from the Department of Public Works. Yeah, we nailed it. So I'll just invite him to tell us a little bit about New North End projects.
Share my screen. I've been on. Hey.
Thank you for letting me present tonight. Philip Peterson, Senior Transportation Engineer and Planner with the City of Burlington Public Works. Here to give you a rundown on some projects that are going to be happening this summer. Also to kind of give you an idea on some opportunities for some public engagement. I heard a lot when I came into the room about having your voice heard. We want your voice heard. We're starting the comp plan. Plan BTV 2050, and this is the time to get involved. That'll be the last slide, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So here's kind of a rundown on the topics, and I will send this presentation to Amy afterwards, so it'll be posted. So first big project, Goss Court, which is right here. We've done a pilot of rubber speed humps out on Goss Court for the past 2 summers, and they've been very popular and very effective in terms of traffic calming. And so we've set aside some funds to put in permanent asphalt tables so they'll just be there year round. Permanent traffic calming infrastructure. There will be more public engagement. There'll be flyers, mailers, but we think that'll be very effective. And I'm happy to take people's input on that. The other thing that's coming up is the Vermont 127 Road Safety Audit. We applied for UPWP funds, that's Universal Plan Work Plan, federal funds. through the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. And we're going to do a deep dive on Route 127 to figure out what we can do to make the corridor safer, right? So a road safety audit is just that. We don't have the funding 100%, but I happen to be on the UPWP selection committee, and it's looking pretty promising. I know, right? Let the fox into the hen house. But the other nice thing is we got a letter of support from the town of Colchester. So it looks like it'll be a regional plan. It does connect the two communities. So there won't be any local match, which means no City of Burlington dollars will have to be committed to that particular project, which is good. The other thing we're looking at is a Plattsburgh Ave slip lane removal, which isn't a new thing for this community. We've removed slip lanes before. If I go back a slide, you can look at the North Avenue interchange. There used to be slip lanes here and here, and those were removed years ago for similar reasons. We don't really need slip lanes going into neighborhoods. It's kind of where people can pick up a lot of speed. And so slip lane removal design is advancing. We don't have perfect design. We're also running traffic models through a program called Synchro to make sure that with the traffic volumes that we have, that's going to work and not create other problems, right? We don't want to create other problems. And it will start probably as like a quick build project, which will involve Jersey barriers. We will definitely be removing the slip lane from the Heidelberg Bridge to Plattsburgh. We don't need a slip lane with people coming right into the neighborhood. Now, hopefully, Rob Goulding, our public information manager with DPW, is coming back here next month with a more robust update about all the construction that's happening. We will have paving in the new North End, Saratoga and Rivermont. I promise. I'm not lying this time, okay? I swear it's going to happen. I hope it happens. Saratoga, Rivermount, and Bennington Court. And then some sidewalks in the new North End, all the sidewalks in Woodlawn, and then some others. And to be honest with you, I don't manage sidewalks, but Rob's coming back next month. There's a QR code up on the screen that will take you to the city council memo that will give you all the details on the paving project that you want. And again, I'm going to send this to Amy. You can get it now or you can get it later. The other thing I wanted to talk about is we did a survey for the rubber speed humps that we put on North Ave near Barley that were very effective in reducing speed, but also effective in making a lot of people happy and a lot of people unhappy, which is okay. Some of the key findings, there were 160 respondents and the travel experience was mixed. A lot of people were like, gosh, it's way safer, but man, is it inconvenient. But I like that speed reduction, but boy, is it inconvenient. So, and I think we understand that. There's obviously some of the kind of the main takeaways here is North Ave, there's some times in this area in North Ave where it's heavily used, right? When school lets in and when school lets out, if you've been over there, and I know Mark and I have been over there when we had to do the Plattsburgh Ave right-hand turn removal, and we were kind of checking things out. It gets very busy. It becomes a bit of a madhouse. So the other takeaway is kind of safety versus comfort. And like I said, the feedback was mixed. The one thing that I found interesting as it kind of went into the metadata is even the folks that felt it was very inconvenient and they didn't like the inconvenience, they acknowledged that they wanted speed reduction. There were some concerns about noise and vibration. We took a lot of data there, and it's just, I acknowledge someone's lived condition, that you didn't like it, it didn't feel good, the vibration, but through monitoring, the data just doesn't show that it's a problem. But I'm happy to talk about that more. Now, talking about opportunities to have your voice heard. Plan BTV 2050, which is an update to the city's comprehensive plan. We're required to do that every 6 years by the state of Vermont regulations. And we're doing 4 plans at the same time. Comprehensive plan, Plan BTV mobility, which is the transportation plan, which is what I'm in charge of. We're doing an economic development plan and an update to the parks plan. We also have a podcast, which is a unique way to do some public engagement. This QR code will take you there. We already have, I think, 5 episodes posted, and we have another 3 or 4 that we've already recorded. And so it airs live every Tuesday. Well, not live, it's pre-recorded. On 99.3 FM, WBTV-LP Burlington, streaming online at 993wbtv.org. Thank you very much. So, and we'd like to engage with the community. So we've interviewed the elemental leads for the project. We've interviewed the consultants. We're set to interview folks from AARP. We'd like to interview city councilors if they'd be interested in doing that. I'm set to interview the mayor soon. It's just a unique way to engage with the public. I would also encourage you to come to the open house. We haven't nailed down a location yet. It's either going to be Main Street Landing or Burlington Tech Center, which is downtown. Yes.
We'll wait for you to come back to the NPA and have us take a look at the north end. And one of the things I've been concerned about with this plan is that
Here you
there's plan for housing at the entrance of Ethan Allen Park that very concerns me, that we would use park space and convert it into housing space. And so I think if the citizens all saw that, you get some pretty good feedback about the positives and negatives.
That's great. So we're mixing plans together. So there is Plan BTV New North End, which isn't finalized yet, Gary. I'm here to tell you. Internal staff, we're actually meeting on Friday to go through that again. That's dialed into the New North End. Comprehensive plan definitely is going to discuss housing, and that's a problem definitely for the city of Burlington, right? We need housing, we need affordable housing. How do we do that in an intelligent way? Right? We have Act 181. We have programs like CHIP through the state of Vermont, which is a new program that helps us use future TIF funding to develop that housing. Other questions?
Thank you. One of the new policies from transportation, which I assume covers some of public works as well. I'm thinking transportation, does that also cover public works? Sure. Okay. So one of the policies that was announced this year for potential implementation next year is the cessation of snow removal on unaccepted streets. That's right.
So yeah, unaccepted streets. Tentatively, we are going to be presenting on unaccepted streets on April 13th at City Council. We've presented at the 2. It's a complicated issue. And what I can say about unaccepted streets is it's a legal issue. Okay. Councilor Ali Jang is here, and through his partnership and the work of the rest of the City Council and the Department of Public Works, we went through that process with Franklin Square probably about 7 years ago. It was a lot of work, and it involved all hands on deck. And it's not DPW being like, we don't want to plow your street. It's an ownership issue, right? The city doesn't own something. There's liability. It can be a little messy. So unaccepted streets is nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change anytime soon. We're not going to stop plowing. We're not going to stop potholing. We're not going to stop delivering gravel. We're not going to stop grading that gravel on streets that would be considered unaccepted. It's just right now we're in an information gathering mode. Actually, next week The entire tech services team is going out to all these 89 streets, all 14 of us, and we're gonna do a conditions data analysis on all those streets. Nothing's changing.
I saw 1, 2, 3 questions.
Hi. I have a question about whether you've been consulted about the potential plan of expanding the Star Farm area. We went to a meeting and they had drawings of possibly taking out some of the park, putting housing units in there and taking the trees out along that area. How would that impact? I know, unfortunately, we had a person didn't come, but so you're kind of on, get to receive the question. But it just seems like I read in 7 days, oh, everyone was so positive about it. I'm not positive about it, but I feel like the traffic and the congestion on that little road, which we go to our house to on, it just doesn't, I don't think a lot of people in that neighborhood know about this. And how would that get out to the public?
I mean, all these things are just possibilities. I can tell you in conversations I've had with Sophie Sauve, who is the planning director for parks. For her, she looked at that and said, no, that's not happening. But no way, Jose. There are other ways that we can develop. Taking out our parks, I don't think that's the way. I think when we're looking at a plan like Plan BTV, New North End, these are sketches. They're not engineering drawings. They're not permitted plans. These are like ideas.
Time for 2 more questions.
I'm asking with the assumption that the Winooski Bridge is sort of joint jurisdiction. Do you have any updates on the bridge repair process coming up this year?
It's proceeding. Construction probably won't begin until fall of 2027. And I would say early 2030 will be complete. That's the hope. It's a pretty complicated project, but it's proceeding.
So a couple of quick, 2 items. The slip lane, as you call it, on Plattsburgh Avenue for southbound Beltline, removing that, I think, would be a tremendously bad idea. Removing the one coming in from the Heidelberg Bridge, good idea. People come barreling in at 60 miles an hour. But removing the
going on to the Beltline, southbound, yes.
Yeah, the southbound one, I wouldn't do that. The other one is more closer to where I live, and it's not the issue on North Cove Road, Mark, but North Avenue between the sewer treatment plant and the bike lane. That used to be a paved street at one time, and it has been neglected long enough, and it was actually useful. These potholes serve as like speed bumps, but now it's getting to the point where we're losing our suspension, and so that needs to be paid attention to. And this is not the same issue that we have for the North Avenue extension and North Cove Road, which is getting slugged out with the committee that Mark's on. That's a different issue. But I'm just saying North Avenue between the sewer treatment plant and the bike lane has to be looked at and actually repaved.
Okay. It's good to know. Yeah.
I know Ellie, you had your hand up, and Sam, our last presenter, is here. So I just want to make sure that there's enough time for that.
Sure.
But we have chance for one more. Well, if you wanted to just let people know where we could continue to interact with this information, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I would say the biggest takeaway for me is I hear that we want our voices heard, right? If you get nothing from this, planning is a process that will either happen to you or with you. Okay? So if you want planning to happen with you, come to the open house on April 30th and have your voice heard, right? Send me an email. Call DPW. The squeaky wheel does get the grease. I promise you, when people send messages to Public Works, we listen, we pay attention. We really do. So get involved, listen to some podcasts. They're pretty entertaining. And they're pretty short. And thank you very much for letting me present.
Thank you so much, Philip. And again, thanks for everybody for your questions. And now I'm gonna invite Sam Donnelly up to present about building Burlington's future.
This one, that works? You guys can hear me? Okay, great. I'm kind of a loud person, so if I get too loud, just someone feel free to interrupt me and stop me from talking. First, I want to apologize. I had the wrong time in my calendar, and so I'm sorry to keep you all waiting. I know I'm now towards the end of the agenda, so I prefer my style is to be more of Q&A related. I don't want to talk to you for 20 minutes about the organization that I'm the executive director of, and then leave no time for questions and comments. Also, it's a Wednesday night, and I'm sure many of us are getting towards the end of our days. So I'll try to keep my part brief, and then I would really encourage you to pester me and hit me with all of the questions we have time for. It would be great. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's really nice to be at an NPA. This is my first time ever presenting at any NPA. And I want to say I have a lot of, having never presented at NPA, I still have a lot of respect for the work that's done. So the people who help lead the NPA and put this on, I hope you make sure you thank them as well, because it's a service to our city. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in the south end of Burlington. I went to the old VHS, Champlain Elementary, Edmonds Middle School, went to the old VHS, took some time off before college, then I went to UVM, stuck around, worked for the Attorney General's office for a little bit, doing expungement clinics in rural Vermont. And then when the Attorney General left in 2022, some of you may remember that, I went to Planned Parenthood, worked for Planned Parenthood running the Reproductive Liberty Amendment campaign in 2022, and then joined Let's Grow Kids to work in the State House to pass the child care bill in 2023, which feels like a long time ago, but fairly recent. So what I learned at Let's Grow Kids was really powerful, that you can have an organization that both is involved in the policy making process and the policy work, and adds capacity to our elected leaders to help pursue good policy, figure out how it's going to work, connect our elected leaders with stakeholders, and broaden the conversation, bring in parents, bring in educators, bring in childcare program owners and managers. And then you can also invite people, everyday people, citizens, whether they're connected directly to the cause because they have a child, or they're just passionate about an affordable Vermont. You can bring those people into the process and help them be a part of the solution as a piece of legislation or a policy moves across the finish line. That was the theory of change that Let's Grow Kids deployed. And after my experience at Let's Grow Kids, I really wanted to do something like that in Burlington. That, and I was fairly tired of driving to Montpelier during the legislative session every day and coming home when it was dark, because it got dark at 4 p.m. and our poor legislators only meet during the winter, the cold months. So when I got together with a few people that I had met from Let's Grow Kids that were also in Burlington, and we decided to found Building Burlington's Future. And we focus on two things. We're a relatively new organization. We're only about 8 months into this. So coming up on a year, but we've wanted to focus on two things: being involved in the policy work that Burlington needs, and adding capacity to our elected leaders' ability, whether it's the mayor's administration or our city councilors, adding capacity to their ability to pursue good policy, whether that's looking at what's working elsewhere, or it's looking at how we can adapt best practice for our beautiful, unique city. And the second piece was that Burlington is a very engaged city. So don't get me wrong, we're not lacking public engagement, and the turnout at an NPA is like this is a good indication of that. But there are also still people whose voices should be brought into the conversation. And there are people who have disengaged over the last few years, certainly since the pandemic. And there are people who feel like they don't have as much trust in our government, whether it's local, state, or national, than they did before. And I wanted to bring those people back into the process. And for a lot of those people, an NPA, it might be surprising to all of us in this room, but an NPA or a city council meeting at 6 p.m. after you've worked a long day, or you have kids at home, or you've just got something else going on, or public speaking in front of a city council isn't your thing, that's a really high barrier. It might be accessible because anyone can go do it and you get your 2 minutes to city council. But speaking in front of people, 12 people on the city council and the mayor's administration and an audience behind you, I actually don't find that to be the most accessible form of advocacy that we can have. And so what we've done at BBF is to bring some other tools to people, hopefully in the goal of making local advocacy a little bit more accessible and a little bit more available. So the bottom line for us is that we would like to, and I'm happy to get into this with questions rather than ramble on at you about the world according to BBF, but we wanted to help add capacity to our city in terms of policy making, and which is a really fancy buzzwordy way of saying we just need to find solutions to some of the problems that we have. And we also wanted to give people access to that solution making process so that people felt empowered and like they could do something and improve their city and move the needle on some of these issues. So we've engaged in the 8 months. We spent a lot of time trying to get to know other organizations. I'll give you an example. If we were gonna work on something that was substance use or recovery related, we wouldn't want to do that without engaging stakeholders who work in that area, whether that's a direct service provider or people with lived experience. And so we spent a significant portion of our time up front getting to know a lot of those stakeholders in Burlington, having conversations and understanding what they felt could be better, what changes they would look for. And then we started to work in partnership with some of our city councilors. We have worked with both progressive city councilors and Democratic city councilors. I did get a question in my inbox the other day about why we weren't working with Republican city councilors. And I just advised that if that was a goal somebody had, they would have to elect one, and we would happily, as a 501c3 nonprofit, we would happily work with them as well. We keep in close contact with the mayor's administration. We meet fairly about monthly with the mayor's chief of staff and make sure we're working directly with them and in coordination to add something positive to the city. So with that, I'm happy to get into sort of specific issues or questions about the organization.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, for the presentation. And again, I could not present myself. I'm Ali Jeng, former city councillor, and I live in Ward 7 because the microphone was not working. Now it works. So, I mean, I think the first impression that I have with this organization is the name. Because the organization that I work for is called the Building Bright Futures, BBF. And now people are asking me, what about homelessness? I said, I have no idea what they do, you know? So I think you should choose a different name. BBF.
Yeah, so I will absolutely bring it to my board that we should look at a 1-year rebranding process. That being said, we did meet with the other BBF, Building Bright Futures, and I did apologize to them for that. The naming of the organization was a group project, and anytime anything goes through a committee or a group process, I think it might be everyone's experience that it's not the best solution that comes out at the end occasionally. So I heard, and also, by the way, huge fan of the work that Building Bright Futures does. They're a phenomenal organization. And having worked at Let's Grow Kids and with Let's Grow Kids sunsetting, they handed off a ton of childcare work to Building Bright Futures, and our families are better off because of the work that they do. So
thank you, Sam. But I wanted to ask you now, I can't because it's so nice to ask. Thank you. All right, let me just say this. So, I mean, when we talk about policy and building capacity, or adding capacity, I think in Burlington, you said it. We don't maybe need more of that because the grassroots organization happening in the city is unprecedented. Ballot items are being brought by the people and for the people. You know what I mean? And I think the people of Burlington should continue to engage with also the local folks who may not have an organization, but to sign the petition and to show up and to speak. I just wanted to add that as well. And thank you all for the work that you do on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I get your email regularly, and they're great. I urge everybody to get on his list. They're very informative. in terms of the work of the organization, things you're doing. It's very, very creative. The question I have is, to what extent have you set your sights on tackling the engagement of resources at UVM?
That's a great question. Can I clarify? Any particular one issue such as housing or?
Yeah. There's expertise there on all of them.
Yeah, so UVM in general, I asked the clarifying question because we just today had a conversation with UVM around specifically housing. But I will tell you, we've had now for 3 months in a row, regular meetings with a group of people at UVM on a whole host of issues, a lot of them related to how can UVM contribute? I want to be careful how I put this, but contribute and be a partner for the city, because there are, in my opinion, a lot of untapped resources on campus, experts, people who are some of the brightest people in their fields that we could bring in to support different areas in the city. And then there are 10. I'm going to get this wrong. Anyone know how many UVM students, undergrad students there currently are? I think it's around 10,000 at least. There's a lot of students and young capital there that we want to make sure our places like our downtown feel accessible to those folks, and that they're participating in it, and more than just going to 3 Needs. And 3 Needs is great, by the way, don't get me wrong. But we want to make sure we have those opportunities. Those things are some of those things are like Festival of Fools or the concerts on the waterfront, so that people, when they go to UVM, especially the students, are not just there for the campus, they're part of our economy, they're part of our culture, they're part of our city. So I don't like the answer I gave you. It's a really general answer, and I don't quite have specifics, but I agree with you for the need to engage UVM on a number of issues. Some range for how do we engage them on a community level and a decision-making process level, and others range from serious capital investments and partnerships in the city.
It's 13,591, by the way.
Thank you. It's gone up a little bit since I was there.
For sure. So when the Plan BTV 2050 city internal team sat down and met about public engagement, and we did it a bunch, one of the things that we put down is your organization to engage and get involved in what we're doing, because this is, we're planning these things. So I would make this like a formal invitation to you. Make sure you come to the open house. Let's connect and make sure that you're part of the public engagement process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to comment just a little bit on public engagement and what I think I've learned and found in the 8 months that I've been working on this project. It's easy to look at Burlington and see a really highly engaged community. I made that comment earlier, and I think this room is living proof of that. I can't shake the feeling that we can always do better in that area. When I have conversations, I am far too in the weeds on things like Plan BTV and what's going on at city council meetings. And I find that most people are not. And that's fine if you miss one meeting, but over time I've found a lot of residents have a lack of understanding, a lack of patience, and a lack of empathy for a lot of the problems that we're facing, and a lot of the strategies and different tactics we're taking to combat these things. And so, I also got asked early on, is your organization in some way suggesting the existence of it, some way suggesting that the mayor's not doing a good job, city council's not doing a good job, and so you're here to fix stuff? And I chuckled, but it's a serious question. Absolutely not. There are just different groups of people around the city that are going to take different messengers and multiple invitations in the door. We can't plant our flag anywhere, say this was an inclusive process, and move on. Inclusion is a full contact sport, and you have to pull some people in. You can't just open a door and say, we're inclusive now, all done.
Andy from Ward 4. I was just wondering what your organization is doing to help improve access to public transportation, buses, and things.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was, what are we doing, or have we done anything to help improve access to public transportation? You know, Andy, the honest answer is we haven't totally engaged on that topic just yet. I think that would be something we're very interested in. We've had a couple of conversations around public transit and generally moving around Burlington with groups like VPOP and a couple other concerned citizens. I'll give an example. I don't think it's probably appropriate for me to share this first, but a South End resident in Ward 5 reached out and said, I have this idea. I'd like to talk to you about bike lanes. And we sat down at Muddy Waters, and he brought a whole map. He said, these are the connected bike lanes and these are the unconnected bike lanes. And some people might know who I'm talking about by this story, but we should find a way to connect more of these transportation corridors, these bike lanes. And all for that, and we have to find the right time and place to bring something like that forward and make sure that it doesn't overburden our public works staff, and it can happen in partnership. But so the short answer is, I don't think we've engaged in that in a public way yet, but that doesn't mean we couldn't find space for it.
Thank you. I have a question. What is your with downtown and local Burlington businesses? It seems to me I've gone to meetings, but it seems like there's the camp of let's support downtown Burlington, let's be local and all that. And then there's another camp that's kind of against the business, like they're the problem. And it just feels like they should be working together. And it seems like an organization like yours could maybe be, the liaison or the glue that kind of brings it together. Because I see that if the businesses do well, then other people who are needing help will do better as well. But,
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll give you an honest answer on that one. When we launched the organization as executive director, I will be honest with you, I didn't want to show up in the community in a way where a lot of community members would say, oh, that's just they're just there for the business interest. That's just a bunch of business owners, and this is not going to produce something for regular citizens and marginalized people and people, our most vulnerable folks in Burlington. And so we have in the first 6 months, we purposely did not lean really far in on downtown issues. We have started to have more conversations, and a lot specifically about downtown, and a lot of those have come out of conversations we've had with the mayor's administration, where we've said, where can we help? And this is an area they've identified. We've worked with them to identify that this is possibly an area where we could help add capacity to things that are already going on, or add energy to things that are already going on, or just share more positive information about our downtown and some of its features. I will add, in line with a piece of what you said, which is that if our local economy is not thriving, isn't growing, right, then the losers on that end are the residents, the taxpayers, and all of the people who rely on the many services that our city provides. That is a zero-sum game. That is a spiral to the bottom, and that's not an environment that lifts anyone up. And so I watch a lot of the volatility, the discourse around downtown and businesses and everything like that, and I'm disheartened by it. And I would like people to consider that if we have a thriving economy, it in theory helps give the city more resources to do things like help support Turning Point in their recovery services.
One more question, we're getting there, but we're down to one microphone, so I'm gonna pass.
I don't even know if this is relevant to your organization, but or local politics, but I'm curious if you all are looking at technology and specifically AI, and the word future is what made me think, are you doing any projecting or recommendations around stuff like that?
That's a great question. I am not actually super great at AI related things. I was a little, I'll be honest with you, it was a little intimidating at the start, and some of my friends were making fun of AI, so I just didn't engage. And now I feel like someone who's standing on a platform and the train left like a year ago. So I'm a little like, oh, I can't touch that now. It's like too intimidating to me. But I will say I see opportunity. So again, I'll like the answer I gave Andy, I'll say it's not something we've engaged in yet. I'd be curious to ask the city and hear from some of the city's leaders how they could see it working in, and then maybe there's a way where we can help provide, whether it's through a research tool that we could purchase or something like that, to help add benefit to the city. I will say that one area I'd love to see improve for our city, and an idea I share freely is our data and our reporting, and the metrics that we hold our elected officials and our amazing, wonderful bureaucrats and public servants accountable to. We have a BTV stat page. I don't know how many of you visited it, but it feels like it was made pre-pandemic. It's hard to read. I don't really understand it. And if I don't understand it, I'm guessing a lot of other folks probably don't as well. And I think we could make some improvements there. I'm sure that would actually be really benefited by some of the new tools that we have through AI and other technology. I feel like because I mentioned him, we gotta.
And then we have one more question.
Not a question. So BTV Stat was a program that was a previous administration that was Mayor Weinberger. I don't know what we're doing for BTV Stat at this stage, so that is old data.
I have a very, very specific question, but I don't know if it's well informed. My understanding is that previously we had a policy about building new developments. It was an attempt to incentivize developers to build affordable housing. And my understanding was they were charged a fine if they did not include like a certain level or a certain number of affordable units. And my understanding is a lot of developers were like, well, I'll just pay that fine, but build the buildings I want that are going to generate more profit for me so that I'm still making money. My question is my understanding of that accurate? Is that still on our books? And if so, what are you guys doing to address that, to incentivize actual affordable housing?
Okay, all right. A few minutes. Councilor Barlow, can you leave the room? I'm gonna get something wrong here. So take this with a grain of salt. I am not a housing expert, and if you look over at any point and Councilor Barlow is shaking his head or someone else is shaking their head, that's totally fine. So I will say I think you're referring to our inclusionary zoning policy, and that's based off your understanding. And I would say it's less of a fine, and we have an option in the inclusionary zoning policy that's a payment in lieu of, right? And so developers, if it's a project, I don't have the thresholds off the top of my head, number of units. And sorry, I should have called out Councilor Carpenter as well, but Barlow is more in my line of sight. So my apologies, Councilor Carpenter, who is a housing. Yes. So the payment in lieu of is an option that I think under a certain threshold developers can make to our housing trust fund. And the housing trust fund money oftentimes is used in direct support of housing projects like some of the ones that you see CHT working on. And I may be oversimplifying it, but I think that's accurate. The mayor and for a long time, previous mayors dating back all the way to Clavel have taken runs at making sure our inclusionary zoning policy works well and works as it's intended to work, and isn't at the same time a barrier to creating new housing. And I know the mayor in her press conference in January announced that it was going to be a focus, inclusionary zoning reform was going to be a focus of her housing agenda. And I welcome ideas there. And I think that building Burlington's future, you can expect to hear from us a fair and hopefully justified and balanced take on whether or not the reforms proposed will result in more affordable housing. And it's more number of affordable housing units, not let cheaper housing. Just I can't, I don't have words on a page to show commas and whatnot. Hold on, Sarah.
The planning department is right in the middle of revising and updating those things. And it is a payment in lieu. It's way too low. Where they may need more capacity is research in other communities. We haven't looked at it in a very long time. So it's a long-winded way to say they're right in the middle of it. They're going around to small groups, getting input from all the stakeholders, and it really needs to be updated. And again, where you may be able to provide assistance other than the practitioners is where else has it worked better and in what form?
We're at our time, and I just wanted to invite Sam to, because there's so much great conversation, share if you have a direct email, if there's a website, people can learn more and engage more with this topic.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This is truly wonderful. I hope some of you do reach out. I encourage it, and I'm usually can find a time for coffee or something else. I'll let you in on a little secret, and I guess everyone watching at home and anyone who watches the recording. The contact form on the website, you can obviously sign up to be on our emailing list, but the contact form on the website is hooked up to my personal email address. So if you fill out it was a scrappy time 8 months ago. If you fill out the contact form on the website, it will go directly to my email address. Other than that, I mainly use the info email. It's info at our website, which is buildingburlingtonsfuture.org. And I just encourage as much participation as you feel you want to engage in. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. And thanks everybody for your great engagement, and our microphones, we're going to talk about that. But we hope to see you next month, April 22nd. We will be here in the Miller Center, 6 to 8. And with that, motion to adjourn. Okay.